Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put together our all new paper sculpture here. And we're going to begin by putting together the biggest layer here. So we've got two of these. These are 11.4 inches. We're going to simply glue these together just to kind of thicken this up a little bit, make it 2 layers thick. If you don't want to pop dot this and give it dimension, which I would, because you see all the interesting stuff that happens here when the light hits this. I do recommend this, but if you don't want to do it, you could simply just use 1 layer and glue this straight to the full 12 by 12 piece. But again, I don't recommend that. It takes away from the whole purpose of a paper sculpture, and that is to create something really dimensional just using layers of paper. So we're going to be layering a lot. Okay, so all we're going to do is we're going to get our glue on this here. Now we want to be somewhat subtle with the glue on this because we don't want the paper to warp, but at the same time we got to kind of work quick. So I'm trying to make this a very thin layer of glue, and I'm trying to do this quickly so that it doesn't start to dry before I can get into all of these little nooks and crannies. For something like this, you may actually want to use spray adhesive to cover all of these fine little details, but it should be fine with this. I mean, there's no reason why it won't work. Spray adhesive may just cover it nicer. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take this layer and simply place it right on top of the other layer just to make this 2 layers thick. And one thing I noticed when I did this with spray adhesive is it's unforgiving. So once you place it down, you're kind of stuck and you don't have a lot of time to shimmy things around. But with this quick dry glue, you do kind of have the opportunity to kind of move things around if you didn't get it placed correctly the first time. So now one thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to make sure that all of these little delicate areas that they're together, and if not, I can use my little trick where I just take my little razor blade or a spatula, put a little tiny bit of glue on there, and fill in the little areas where I want a little more hold, like this little leaf down here. I wasn't able to get the glue out to the little extremities. Let me move this so that I don't squirt glue all over the place accidentally, because that's going to be our base layer. Okay, so I'm just kind of lifting up some of these little areas here and checking to make sure that I did a good job gluing, and in areas where I didn't, I'm just going to go in and just spread a little bit of glue under there with my razor blade and get that to hold nicely. Because if you think about it, unless again you're using spray adhesive, it can be very challenging to cover every little nook and cranny in this design before the glue starts to set. You really have to walk a fine line of making sure that you're also not using too much glue. If you use more glue and layer it on thick, it will take longer to dry, which gives you the opportunity to put more down. But at the same time, you risk warping the paper and totally eliminating the nice, crisp, beautiful look of this cardstock. So I don't recommend that either. So nothing wrong with going back after the fact and just cleaning up some of these little areas. But that looks good to me. Okay. So what we can go ahead and do, and I'm going to do this now actually, we're going to take this and we're going to mount it to this full 12 by 12 sheet of paper. Okay, and I'm going to erase this. So I'm going to flip it over on its back side. And today I'm using foam circles. I'm sure a lot of you have seen me in the past use foam squares. Really no difference, minus the fact that these are circular. So that's totally fine. And another thing too is just start by working the corners, and then we'll start filling in between the corners here. And with this base layer, the more the merrier, because it's going to give you a nice, stable look, and that will ensure that none of this sags and stays nice and in place, which is what we want. So I'm going to go ahead and now kind of find the middle point between those two and add some dots there and just work my way around. If you have strips of foam, adhesive foam, that would probably be the ultimate thing. Just a nice straight line all the way around. You could do that. I think they make that. Just using what I have here, and it will get the job done, I'm sure. Okay, so we've got them kind of spread out here. Now I'm going to go in between these two here. Okay, it's almost like building columns when you're making like a deck. You know, you need X amount to make sure that you don't run into any issues with the deck just collapsing under your feet. Not that I've ever built a deck. You really don't want me to build you a deck. I guarantee you that. That would be a disaster. I'm sure that a lot of people would get hurt. Okay, so just going to keep on going around here. Just spacing these as evenly as possible. It doesn't have to be completely perfect, just as long as we get it in the ballpark. Okay, and then we're going to take and also apply a few of these inwards a little bit to add support to some of the bigger structures here. Okay, so you kind of get what we're doing here. We're just really stabilizing this thing. And this is kind of a fun little change from using glue because it's not as messy. So it just definitely makes it fun. You could even have a child help you with this part, I think, depending on the age, obviously. Okay, so I'm just going to keep on rocking here and just kind of pinpoint some of the thinner areas that you think might need them. You don't want to put them too far out to the center of the design because you don't want them kind of showing up or being able to see these as you're admiring your work here when it's all done. You don't want to be able to see them from the side. You want to kind of hide the fact that we have these little columns holding this design up. Okay. All right, so I think that's probably plenty. Now, we included, you're probably wondering, what the heck is this thing? This little piece here is kind of you just put this in the corner of your full 12 by 12 sheet of paper, okay? And you can use a pencil to kind of mark this off if you want. You can just draw a little dot there. You can do that on each side to help you with the proper placement of this piece, okay? So you want to kind of line that up with that edge there, and I'm going to actually stand up here so I can get an eagle-eyed view of what I'm doing here. I'm just going to go ahead and do it with just that one piece there. I feel like I have a pretty good eye when it comes to centering and leveling things. So we're just going to place that right down on our sheet and just lightly press down all around the design here and then move that out of the way. You don't actually need to glue this to anything. Okay. All right, so we've got the base of this thing in place, and it looks pretty level. It looks pretty good to me, nice and centered. And at this point, all we're really going to be doing is just kind of layering things onto the design, okay? So you can begin by, we're going to work on the outside first and then put together the little design in the middle. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is find all your leaves, all the big leaves here, okay, and get those all together. Here are all my leaves. I've done a lot of embossing and I've done some inking. I did that all beforehand so you wouldn't get bored watching me. Okay, so let's get all the leaves together here. There are a couple little green ones too. They're like half a leaf. Get all those together. And there's some brown ones. Just putting together a collage of leaves. And we've taken and actually embossed the patterned ones and also inked those. Okay, so find the, I guess they're going to be this color here. This, I forget what the actual color name is for this, but these are going to go here. So these are actually going to be gluing down, and we just need to figure out, it's kind of like a little puzzle, a little leaf puzzle for adults. Let me move that out of the way. Okay, this one's going to go here, I think. Yep. Okay, so grab these. That one's going to go here. And these we're actually going to glue on flat. And that one goes there. Okay, so that is it for that color. So we can go ahead and get that glued down. And again, these are going down flat. So we'll go ahead and put our glue on this piece here. Just very, very easy on the glue with these. You don't need a lot. Okay, come on, glue, cooperate with me today. There we go. Okay, just nice thin with the glue so it doesn't warp the paper. Get it out to the extremities there and get that nice and lined up with the back layer there. And even if you get a little bit of it, not perfect, you have a tiny little bit of that red poking through, it's still going to look nice. Okay, so that looks great. So we'll just kind of continue around here. And I apologize for my finger here. It's finally healing from slicing it open and almost completely off. Trying to remove a staple with a Ginsu knife. Don't ask me why. Okay, so get that nice and lined up there. Get that top nice and flush. And just be gentle with this piece. Nice and gentle. Okay, and of course, just going to continue working on these down here. Just subtle amounts of glue on these. Don't have to go overboard. Okay. And just match that up and push that down. It's a very fun little piece to work on because just kind of doing all of the really simple things that are involved in paper crafting, and there's not much, I don't know what the word is. It's not very challenging. It's just, it's fun. It's like a puzzle. People buy puzzles as like forms of stress relief and as a hobby because you kind of like to put things together and see that get that sense of accomplishment. Okay, now we're going to find our little yellow leaves here. Okay, so I just realized that I had this upside down. That's why I was kind of confused here. But this piece here is going to go right here, and this one we're also gluing down flat. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this piece in place. Just go ahead and get your glue on there. Very thin lines of glue. Okay. And again, just kind of match that up. Make sure you've got it nice and aligned with the edge there. And just get that right in place. Okay. Let's take a nice orange ink and just ink the edges of this thing to kind of make it look like a nice little fall leaf that's been slowly wilting or decomposing and kind of getting beat up by the sun a little bit maybe. Okay, so this guy here is going to go on the opposite side. It's kind of a geometric thing going on here, or a, what's the word I'm looking for? Symmetrical. Okay, so that's where that guy goes. And we've got two more. Now this one's going to go here. This one's also, it's a tone of yellow. It's a little bit of a different tone than the one we just put on there, but these two are going to go right here. So let's go ahead and get these glued down. You could probably figure this out just by looking at the photo, but there's a few little, never hurts to have a video. Okay, so that's going right here. Just make sure that you've got that right out to the edge as well. Just kind of holding the tip of it as I lightly caress my leaf here. Okay, let's get the other side. So this is the easy part. Actually, all of this is pretty easy. Just take your time, have fun with this. It's like a fun little puzzle. Get your glue on there. All right, grab that tip there and just place that into its little home. Squeeze this. There we go. Okay. All right, so that is pretty much it for the flat gluing. Okay, everything else we're going to do dimensionally. We're going to do some training, and we're going to do some zodding. Okay, so for example, this maple here, this maple is going to go right here. Okay, and we are going to use some foam squares for this to make this pop out and give it some life. Okay, I inked this also with a nice red or orange, and I ran it through an embossing folder as well, just to kind of give it a nice texture, I guess. Okay, so I've got my maple here. I already put a few foam squares on the back of it. Now, what you may want to do, it's up to you, you can go ahead and actually train the tips of these to kind of make the little tips flare out, just to kind of give it a little bit more dimension than what we're already giving it by making it kind of stick out. So do your best to get some foam squares in all of the little nooks and crannies here. Now these are, what are these? These are 1/4 inch foam squares. You know what you can do actually, if you want smaller ones, if you just take some scissors, you can actually cut these. It really helps to have good scissors. I don't really take care of my scissors very well, but you can cut them and make them, 1/8 inch foam squares as well. So you can cut these down to almost any size that you want if you have really nice scissors, and just get those in place and peel off the backings. The the more you have on here, the better, I think, as far as, you know, making sure that this thing stays in place and doesn't get squished. But you also want to make sure that you're hiding these foam squares nicely as well, so that they're not showing through once you get them in place. So I'm just going to peel off the backing on these and get that into place here. Okay. And just get that nice and aligned. And just push that down into place. Just like that. Okay, so there you go. Okay, so moving on here, you know, and again, for the sake of time here in this video, so I don't bore you, I'm just going to go ahead and explain the layers here. We're going to do the same thing with the maple leaves here, and you'll see that I'm just going to show you where they go. Okay, so this one's going to go here, this one's going to go here, and this one's going to go here. You want to put foam squares on these and get those in place so that they're raised. Okay, and then once you've done that, there's just some oak leaves here, and that's really all that's left is these 4 oak leaves, and these are all symmetrical. These are basically identical. They are. Well, are they? No, they're not actually. There's 2, and then there's 2. So you're going to want, let's take a look at the differences between these here. And these you're also going to raise. Okay, so let's take a look and see. Okay, so these have 3 on this side. These have 3 on this side. Okay, so these, the ones with the 3 on this little part of the leaf here, those are going to go on the bottom right corner and the top left corner. Okay, like that. And then these are going to go in the opposite corners here. Now before you put down these 2 here, we've got these 2 half leaves, okay, and these half leaves are going to go right here, and these are going to be raised. Okay, so you want to go ahead and raise these as well. So these are going to go down here, and then your oak leaves are going to go down here, and these are all going to be raised. Okay, so go ahead and let's get that all put into place. We'll have our leaves done and we can move on to the center of the sculpture here. Okay, so I've got my maple leaves in place here. I'm working on these little half leaves here, and as you can see, I did need a 1/8 inch little square, so I cut off a little bit more of this. I just kind of sliced it in half with my scissors, and then that way I can cover the more delicate areas that need some smaller pieces, and that's just going to help keep this in place and keep it from moving around too much. I'm going to peel these off and just get them right on there. Okay, and we're just going to butt that right up against that piece there and get that in place. And we'll do the same thing on this side here. I've got a nice thick area here where I can put a full square, and then I'm going to work some tiny squares. They're more like rectangles, I guess, at this point, into these smaller areas here. And try not to get them too close to the edge so that they don't stick out when you get this down onto your masterpiece here. Okay. So let's go ahead and place this one into its final home here, okay? And all that's left at this point is our little our oak leaves. And we've got some really nice thick areas here for these full-sized squares. I think we can get away with nothing but full-size squares with this guy here. Okay, so let's just let's layer these up and get them in place, and peel them back. And what we can do is flare these out a little bit, Just train them just a tiny little bit or a lot, however you want to do it. I kind of want it to be, I want it to be a little subtle. I think this thing's already dimensional enough. I don't know that I want to overdo it. Okay, but get that nice and aligned in the corner. And push that down, just like that. There we go. Okay. And grab our other one. Got 3 more to do like this, so you can feel free to kind of skip ahead here if you don't want to watch me do the same thing 3 more times. But again, it's just kind of a fun little puzzle to put together. I'm just going to do 4 on this one. I think I can get away with that. And I'm going to take it and just kind of flare the tips of these out a tiny bit. Maybe one's going to be flared out more than the others. Just kind of make it random, just like nature. And just put that right in place. Just like that. Okay. All right, and just repeat the same process with the remaining 2. And our border will be pretty much done. And then we can move on to the little scene on the inside of our sculpture here. Okay, just going to flare that out just a tiny bit. I don't want to overdo it. I think this thing's already got enough dimension. Okay, let's bring this a little bit closer here. And just pop that right in place. Just like that. And last but not least, our mighty oak. Our last little mighty oak leaf. Okay. These are definitely easier to use than like those 3D Zots. So I definitely would use these instead of those, as those are sometimes, they're great if you're just using 1 or 2 here or there, but when you have to do a lot, your hands tend to get really sticky, and sometimes it's really hard to get those off your fingers. Okay, so that is that. Let's get that nice and in the corner there. And just push that down gently, and there is the beautiful border for our sculpture. And we're now ready to start working on the inside. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to place this in the center of our design. And you want to use this maple leaf here as your kind of focal point in making sure that this thing is nice and centered. And then the bottom of this, you want to kind of align the bottom so that it kind of is on the same plane as the tips of these oak leaves here. Okay, so get it centered and adjusted. I think that's probably good. Almost on the same plane as the tips of these. Maybe slightly lower. That's fine. And what we're going to do, we're going to put glue on all the parts here except for the leaves, because the leaves, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of train these and flare them out a little bit. And we want to do that now while we can actually hold this, just to kind of give this piece a little bit of life. Okay, so these are leaves here. It's like a little pumpkin patch with a little fence. And we're just gonna flare these out, maybe curl one this way, curl another one that way. Give these a little bit of life. Okay, I'm gonna curl this one back, and then I'm gonna curl this one the other way. Really just be random with it and train these leaves. give them a little bit of dimension, because that's the whole idea with this sculpture, is to make it interesting. Don't make it flat, okay? So something like that is fine. So we can go ahead and flip this around and be subtle with the glue here. Just real gentle, don't need a lot. Definitely get it out to the edges and work some into the little stem here. Definitely want to get it onto, this is where our little sunflowers are going to go. Just don't put it on the leaves. You don't want them on the leaves. Just on the actual fence. There's a little birdhouse here on the stem of the sunflower, just not on the leaves. Okay, that's perfect. And let's just make sure that we get this nice and aligned, nice and centered, nice and even. Okay, take a look at that, make sure that you've got it nice and centered. I'm going to say that looks good. I'm going to say that looks pretty good. Okay, great. All right, so we've got that in place. And what we can do now is put our little fence on here. Okay, and we'll finish it up with the pumpkins and the sunflowers. Okay, so I'm going to grab my little fence piece here. There's our fence. It's going to go on like that. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this over. I took this and I ran this through a wood grain embossing folder to kind of give it a wood look. And I inked it with a nice tan color. And we're going to go ahead and get our little foam squares on these. I'm going to put one on the bottom of each of these little boards. And then we'll go up, put one at the top of each board. And I think that should probably hold this in place nicely for us. Okay. You may want to, you could probably put one in the middle too. Might be a little bit of overkill, but like I said, kind of the more the merrier. Let me see. One thing you can do is when you put this on there, before you take the backing off, just kind of feel it. And if you feel like it's sagging a lot when you push on it, maybe add another one. But you know what? I think this is plenty. Okay. And actually, you know what? Before we put this down, we have little roofs for the birdhouses. Okay, we may as well glue those on now before we get too deep into this. So I'm just going to go ahead and put little bits of glue on these. And you know what? It's a white paper. I'm not overly concerned about it bleeding out or anything like that. It's not going to show, so I'm not going to worry too much about dabbing the glue and thinning it out. I don't think it's really going to show through too much. So just a few little drops of glue on these and pop that right on top of our cute little birdhouses here. Okay, there we go. That looks great. And let's go ahead and peel these off. And we're going to pop that right onto, this part's pretty self-explanatory. I think you get an idea of where this is going to go because we've got a little shadow layer to help guide you through this part here. Okay, so just get that nice and centered. Make sure that you've got it aligned properly and just push that down just like that. Okay, we're getting there. It's looking really cute. Okay, now we've got another little dimensional piece here for the fence to make that stick out even more. Okay, so let's go ahead and flip that over. I also ran that through the embossing folder with the wood grain. So get a foam square out to both sides here, all the way at the end, almost to the end. Okay. And I probably want to put one in the middle just to make sure that that sits up nicely. And just put that right there. Okay, so we're gonna work on our pumpkins here. We've got this layer here. I ran this through a dot embossing folder. Now these little designs here on the ends are also some pumpkin leaves. So I'm gonna curl these out. And this is actually gonna get glued on flat because we don't wanna do too much dimension on this. Okay, so just make sure that you get that nice and centered there on your design. And we're just gonna put glue on the little fence posts here. Just a little bit on each one. Just like that. And just make sure that you've got the little pumpkin ribs here at the top and the leaves on the bottom and the side. Cover up that fence. Okay, and just push that down into place. And let that set. Okay, so that is our design so far. It's looking really cute. Okay, now before we start putting our pumpkins down, let's find the little pumpkin stems. Okay, we're gonna adhere those to these pieces here that look like they have pumpkin stems on them, and you just wanna match these up accordingly with the pieces that they look like they should go on. Okay, and we're gonna glue those flat. Don't need to add more dimension to these pieces. Just little tiny dots of glue. Just get it right on there. And just stick that down onto our little pumpkins. Okay, and just kind of shimmy that over. Make sure that you've got it right on top. And even if you don't, if you have a little bit of that underlying color poking through, I think it actually adds more interest to the piece. So don't feel bad if you don't get it perfect. It's still gonna look really cool. Okay, so let's get this piece in place here. Just like that. Nice little brown stem, letting us know that these pumpkins have been drying for quite some time. Okay, last one. So this is just a little bit of pre-prep work here. These are going to be the top layers of our pumpkins. Okay, so there's the top layers there. All right, so what we want to do is we want to go ahead and grab this piece here. This is kind of the base of our pumpkin here, our pumpkin, little pumpkin patch. Okay, and we're gonna pop dot that, or foam square it. All right, so let's flip that over and let's get some foam squares on this piece here. I'm gonna start with the outside and then work my way in. And again, you can tell that as you push down on this, it really gives here in the middle. So we definitely want to kind of give this middle part a cushion so it doesn't begin to sag over time. Go ahead and peel off the top. And we'll get this into place. Looks like my fingers are starting to get a little sticky here. I also ink this as well, obviously. So just match that up as nicely as you can. And just push that into place. Okay. And go ahead and grab these pumpkins here. This color. Okay, so this one here is going to go here. Okay, this one here is going to go right here, and then there's going to be a pumpkin in the middle. But let's go ahead and put together the full pumpkin here, so that we can put it all down in one shot here. Let me find my. Where did my squares go? We're going to go ahead and take this pumpkin here, and we're going to put this piece right on top of it here like that. Okay, and this guy here, this little stem, I'm going to just curl this a little bit, make it a little more interesting. That's going to be free floating because there's not really any room to put anything else on there to hold it up, which should be fine. It's a really thin piece, so it should be able to hold its own. So I'm going to grab some pop dots, or some foam squares, I should say. And we're going to adhere that right to this guy here, just making sure that we've got him nice and centered. Okay, so that is that guy there. And we're going to glue that. Actually, we're going to go ahead and pop dot that as well, right onto that piece here. So we can flip that over and get some squares on here. And I'm going to put two on the bottom, one on the top. I think that should probably hold this guy up nicely. Okay. And get that nice and in place there. There we go. There's pumpkin number 1. Okay, and then pumpkin number 2 here. We're going to take this guy, and this one here goes to our middle pumpkin. So we're going to put that off to the side for a second. This one here is going to go right on here, and we can kind of curl this stem out now that it's set. Just to kind of make it a little more interesting. Just like that. So let's flip him over, and let's add some foam squares to the back. Let's put one here, and then one all the way at the bottom. That should hold him up nicely. Okay, so let's get that nice and centered. Just kind of use the butt of our little pumpkin as a guide for placement as far as the ribs go. So that looks good. And then we can go ahead and get our foam squares on the bigger part of our pumpkin here. And I'm just kind of staggering them a little bit, working the perimeter nicely. Okay, that looks good. Don't forget to peel your backings off. And now let's get this pumpkin in place. And he's going to go right there. Okay, let's take a look and admire our work so far. Love the dimension on that. Really makes it look like a real pumpkin there. Okay, now this center pumpkin here, he's going to get pop dotted onto the middle here. Now we're going to make him stick out. We're actually going to make sure that we put some foam squares on these two edges here to get him to stick. Okay, that's all we really need. But we do need to put him together first. Let's curl these out a little bit, flip them over, and let's get our foam squares on here. I'm running out of these foam squares where the back is easy to kind of peel off. That's okay. All right, so I'm just going to put 2 on this one. Oops. Hopefully you can see this. I'm just going to put that right on there. Again, just using the butt as my guide. All right, we can flip him over and add some more squares to the back, just like that. All right. So he is all in place. Make sure that I've got the backs off and get him nice and lined up there. Perfect. All right, so now I'm going to grab some foam squares and just kind of get a visual as to where he's going to go. He's going to go right about there. So what we want to do is let's put a little foam square right on that guy there. And then let's put another one right on this guy here. Okay. And these don't come off as easy, so I like to use a razor blade. And it may help with this piece here to actually pull the backing off before you put it on there. You can see, I think this is the Michaels brand, or no, this is the Joanne brand. It doesn't come off as easy. There we go. There we go. Okay. All right, so put our final pumpkin in place. Oops. Right there. Perfect. All right, so we've got our little pumpkin patch there, and all that's left to do now is put together some sunflowers and put this thing in a frame. So let's go ahead and take a look at our sunflowers. We'll get those constructed, and then we can just glue them right on there, and we'll be done here. So let's get those. Oh, you know what I forgot? We have one more little pumpkin leaf here, and we're going to put him right here. Okay, so just add a little dot of glue right on the stem here, and put that down. However it lands is fine. Okay, or not. I want him right about there. Okay, let's put this off to the side for a second so we can work on our sunflowers. Okay, so all we have left to do here is assemble our sunflowers. So what you want to do is you want to find the actual flower pieces that are the exact same size. Okay, those are going to go on top of each other. I inked these with like a tan color just to kind of give them a little bit of a variance in the color. So it's not just a solid color. You can see that it's kind of fading in a little bit. Okay, so you want to get those kind of aligned here. Each one of these is going to get this little brown piece, okay, and you want to lay these out according to size, obviously. Same with this, you're going to go with a lighter brown for each of these, and then each of these is going to get this little green thing as well. These are the inner parts of our sunflower. Okay, so what I did off camera here was I began by taking all of these leaves here and pinching them. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of taking my finger, placing it right in the center here, and underneath, just kind of pushing up to kind of get it folded a little bit, and then I'm grabbing the tip and just kind of pinching it. Okay, so I'm kind of creating a U shape first, and that just makes it easier to then pinch the tip. Okay, so just kind of get it going in that direction, and then work your way out to the tip and just pinch that tip. Okay, and that's going to kind of give this that much needed dimension to make it look nice and lively. Okay, just go ahead and tip those ends, or pinch those ends, I should say. Get them nice and pinched all the way around. And once you kind of get the hang of it, it'll start going smoothly. Okay, and you're going to do that to both layers, just like that. And do that to all of the flowers. And then with these guys here, I'll show you what we're going to do with those. We're going to try to curl those as much as possible to give them some life. And don't worry if you don't get it pinched perfectly. As long as you get it somewhat pinched, it's going to look good. The idea is for that light, you can see how the light's hitting that, and it's changing the tone of the paper, so it makes it more interesting. It's like we've inked it again, like additional ink on the tips, but it's really just an optical illusion because of the shadows. Okay, so, but you definitely want to go ahead and ink them. And what I did was I just inked them from the inside. Okay, so I'm just pinching. All right, great. So we got them all pinched. Now with these pieces here, I'm going to go ahead and first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of cup them. Okay, and then I actually want to try to curl these. It's a pretty small piece, maybe difficult to curl these, but first just begin by cupping these. Okay, just pull them in, get them nice and cupped so that they're coming in, just like that. Okay, and we're going to try to curl those a little bit. So grab like a really thin anything that you can get your hands on and just try to kind of curl those around it so that they almost are like coming in. I'm just kind of shaping it around this little hook piece. This is actually a Sizzix tool that's used to used for weeding vinyl, but I'm just kind of using that as a little piece there to just to kind of curl it in. It's a really small piece, but that's kind of what we're going for. I'm going to pop that inside of this piece too. I'm going to try to achieve that same thing here on this. Okay. You're going to do this for all sizes of the flowers, or you know what, you can just kind of leave them flare out this way too, whatever you want to do, but we're going to try to make it look as close as a sunflower as we possibly can. It's going to go inside there, and then that's going to go inside the middle. Okay, so what we want to do, you can take these and you're going to repeat the same exact process for all of these flowers. They're just different in size. That's all it is. It's just the size that's different. So, of course, I've got a glue bottle that is kind of dried up on me here. Let's clean that off. And let's get a little bit of glue in the center. And you want to offset the petals so that they're not just right on top of each other. You want to offset them so that they're like this. Okay. And then I'm going to take, let me get this out of here. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of glue in the center of this guy. I'm going to put our brown piece down right in the center. Okay. And then the next brown piece, pop that right in the center. And then our little green piece. And I think I may want to, we're just going to go ahead and glue that in there. Nice little dot of glue. Just pop that right in the center. There we go. And I'm going to curl these in a little bit more, just to give it the illusion of it being a nice little sunflower. Okay, so that's kind of the look we're going for there. And then what we're going to do, once you've got all 4 of your flowers put together, we're just going to glue these down. Okay, so you want the 2 larger flowers, and actually, you know what, I'm going to move this over really quick because I need to show you something real quick here. The 2 larger flowers are going to go up at the top here, okay, and the 2 smaller ones are going to go here. Now, this guy here, he came loose. You want the little circular part where the flower is going to end up to be flat on your page so that the flower sticks nicer. Okay, this flower is going to go here, just like that. The other larger one here, that one here, the smaller one here, and that's pretty much it for your project. I may actually take a little black pen and create some little dots on that green part just to kind of make it look like there's been a bunch of seeds in there. Okay, so go ahead and finish up your flowers, and then we're going to put this thing in our little frame here. But again, once you've got this on there, you can go ahead and put a little dab of glue on that spot there, and just push that down and hold it in place until it sets. And there we go. All right, so just finish up the rest of your flowers, and then let's see what this thing looks like. Oh, sorry, you couldn't even see that. I just went ahead and glued him on. I'm just kind of pushing down here and letting him set. I'm going to do the rest of the flowers here, and then we'll meet back here in just a minute to get this thing put into a frame. Okay, so I'm on my last little flower here, and I found this hook tool to be really good at creating this look that we were after here with these little stamen pieces. I guess we can call them that, or the center of the sunflower. That's fine. Okay, so I've actually been putting the little green part in first before I put this part. So putting the green part inside here. Okay, and then I'm taking and gluing both of these pieces, a little too much glue there, to the inside of the smaller piece. Using this guy here to kind of push things around. Okay, and then just a nice little dot of glue in the center of my flower. Put that right on there, get that nice and centered. Kind of shake it around a little bit. Okay, and just push those in. Maybe bring these up a little bit, just kind of cup them. Okay, just like that. And then you can go ahead and get a little dot of glue, maybe just a little more, and get him right in the center there to finish off this piece. And there you have it. Beautiful. I probably might take some little black dots and put them in the centers of the green things just to kind of give those a little bit more interest. But that is it for this guy here. Let's go ahead and put him in a shadow box and see what this thing is going to look like. Okay, so I'm not actually going to put him in there. Just want to kind of put the frame, and that looks beautiful. So thank you guys for joining me. Hope you enjoyed this project. Would love if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I will see you next time. Stay on top of all things Dreaming Tree and engage with us today. Get the latest news and enter in our giveaways on Facebook. Get inspired by following us on Pinterest. Be the first to see our new product launches on Instagram. Do you prefer Twitter? Yep, we're there too. Watch our beautiful product trailers and assembly tutorials on YouTube. For more information, visit www.3dsvg.com. Live, craft, love, and dream.